when the blind audition actually came around and I was backstage, I no kidding, man, I was dying. Like it's like you want to go sit on the toilet and also puke at the same time, you know. And I was just dying. Um, so I don't know that I dealt with it. All I can tell you is when I took the stage. Anytime you watch The Voice or anybody that you talk to that's been part of it, and you know the sort of alumni of the show. If you only count winners, there's 22 of us, I guess. But if you
Mhm.
count everyone, man, there's hundreds of people now that are Voice
Sure.
alumni, and if you talk to any of them, they would tell you when you take the stage, it's just silent. The room is silent. There's no applause. There's nothing. It's just total. And that was that. I think that might have been the peak. Because once I got to the stage, I can't lie, I was still nervous. I don't ever want to tell it different, but it was better. The only thing that I can think, and I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, so this is just me speculating. Uh, Only thing I could think is, you know, now I'm here, you can't really unring the bell. Just you got to do it, you know. And so my nerves must have just said you can't get out of it, and they kind of settled, and that's it.
I Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I used to be a boxer, and I'd always get very, very nervous before a fight. But it's a weird thing. It's funny that you use the analogy of the bell ringing, because
Yeah, yeah,
once the bell rings, the nerves just sort of dissipate, and now it's game time. So I
yeah.
think you're
That's
onto
right.
something.
Yeah, it must have been it.
Um, okay, so yeah, so you go up, it's the blind audition. It's Nick Jonas, Blake Shelton, and John Legend, Kelly Clarkson in their chairs.
Right.
Obviously, they're turned back to you, in the blind
Yeah.
audition. What's going through your mind as you're performing? So this was "We've Got Tonight" by Bob Seger. What's going
Yeah.
through your mind as you're performing and you see the chairs start to turn?
Oh man, the moment the first chair, because the first chairs turned really pretty early, thank
Yeah,
God. 'Cause I don't know how my friends do it, that it turned right at the end of the song or didn't at all. Man, I don't know how they work through that. But so luckily for me, they started turning really early, and so it's hard to say what exactly was going through my mind, except to say that I had a plan, like I really did. And the people that are part of the show sort of, not the coaches, but people that work with the show, they sort of knew what my plan was. You have, because they're a national TV show. You can't just go out there just guns blazing. They got
right.
to they kind of got to know what's up. And so I had a plan, but when those first chairs turned, man, my plan just went out the window, and I just got so excited because I knew I made it onto the show. I was expecting, well, I don't know what I was expecting. I was just hoping for one chair, and then you made it onto the show. If a chair turns, you're on the show, and so I just got so super excited. I couldn't. I mean, you could tell by watching my blind. I think even Kelly went on and on about how excited I got, but also I don't think they understood for me, and I don't want to put myself like in a special category. Lots of people on that show, lots of people for different reasons, and all of them great reasons, and some of them probably more meaningful than mine. But I was I don't think Kelly or any of them understood what really was at stake for me at that point in my life and in myself, like inside. So that's one of the reasons I just got so super excited. I was like, hey, the page is turning.
I thank you, Todd. I feel compelled to ask you, what was at stake for you?
Oh, just my really kind of my future. Like, and when I say that again, I don't want to come across like my past was bad, or I just all I know is I was like a 40-year-old guy that just was in a place in my life, and we were me and my wife were kind of clear about it with our closest friends, or some people, I don't even want to call them friends, I hate to say that, but they're just trusted people in my life, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I get it for sure.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And so we had been fairly candid with them for a couple of years that I don't know what was going on with me, but something was going to have to give, and I just didn't want to become, and I didn't have any. When I say things, I just don't want people to read too much into it.
Yeah, yeah.
I just didn't want to become a statistic, because I was a pastor, for a lot of years, and man, those guys, you open up Google any given day of the week, and there's liable to be like a pastor rolled up in the church parking lot and shot himself because he just couldn't deal with whatever, and I just didn't want to be in it like that, and so there was it almost felt like my entire future was at stake, like, because it was like, I don't know. The best way I know how to put it is, I think God loved me enough to give me the grand gesture that He knew I needed to move forward into something different, and that's what was at stake.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. So then, what was it that made you join Team Blake?
Oh man, that I think was the beauty part of being one of the old guys on the show, because if you watch The Voice, I don't know exactly how to say this. I'm not certain of their means and methods of putting the show together. I don't know. But you will see that there's going to be a percentage, and it's always a small percentage, of contestants on each season, or artists on each season, that are older. And then the vast majority are going to be younger, but the beautiful part about me being one of the old guys, because I'm trying to remember on my season, it was like me, another Todd Michael Hall. He was a little older than me. Tanisha, she and I are right about the same age, I think. Maybe she might be a hair older than I'm not sure.
All the
but
teas.
One of the beauty, yeah, right, yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't want to throw anybody out, but I really do think we were just about the only three kind of really older people on my season. Trying to remember, or at least that made it, into the lives and stuff. I think we were about the only ones. But anyway, I think when the blind audition was happening and over, and I had a choice of all four coaches, and I could have picked any one, I do think that my life experience had put me in a position where I wasn't just like giddy that Nick Jonas is sitting right here, I'm just dying, and I didn't know very much. I'm honest about that. I've never ever backed off of this. I didn't know very much about The Voice. All I knew about the show at first was the chair thing. I knew that there were four at the time. You call them judges, but they teach you pretty quick. You don't call them judges on The Voice; they're coaches, But I remember that. I knew that. So once I made it far enough that I was like, dang, I might be on this show, then I kind of started doing some research, and one of the things I learned in my research is that your odds of going far in the show are better with Blake Shelton. That's if you do research on The Voice. And then number two, which is really most important for me, is I felt like he and I were more on the same level with, like, just as people, our personalities and the way we interact. And because that's like, it's second nature to me to just joke around with people. I've offended people and I didn't mean to,
I know what that's like. Trust me.
Yeah. You see what I mean? And that's how he is. He just cuts up and jokes, and he is, when it's time for business, he does business, but he's not, I don't know how to put it, all I know is, like, this never aired on TV, but after my blind audition, I had an interview, and they asked me why I didn't pick certain coaches, and I thought, Nick, like, my kids would pick Nick, like, my kids would have picked Nick. They grew up on Camp Rock and all that stuff.
Yeah.
John is just so cool and particular, and I am not cool at all. And my anxiety would be through the roof if you were going to be real particular. Kelly, I believe it or not, I actually thought about Kelly, because I kind of thought if I were to make it all the way to the coach duets in the show, that would be a killer duet.
Yeah.
I did kind of think that. But at the end of the day, I kind of thought me and Blake were a lot more alike as people. And then, of course, when I say of course, I don't know how it all works, but just so happened that in my blind audition, Blake pitched last, and his pitch was really, so he just sort of won me over. So that's why.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense to me. So then, what did he teach you?
Oh, I'm going to tell you the honest truth on the show as far as dealing with any of the coaches. But I think one of the things that Blake taught me more than anything is just people that, and I hate to say this because it's not very technical, because really he he would have a couple of notes here and there, but I think he's a little more. Now I don't know, because in my season, by the time it got to live shows, we were remote, and so we're on a screen, and so I don't know how he's dealing with other people, but with me, he was never critical. He was always just very encouraging about the things that he felt like you did well,
Mm.
and so Blake is probably one of the I don't know, one of the first people in my life that just kind of taught me that people want to hear me sing, and so I should do it. And because as far as the songs and stuff, there was a couple of times here and there where he would say, "Don't, maybe don't do that." You know, like like when I did my knockout round, I sang "Anymore" by Travis Tritt.
Right.
Blake could tell I was kind of shaky at the beginning, and so his business. He let me know like that. You're kind of shaky in the beginning. But as far as like lasting lessons, I just really, whatever the lesson would be, it's hard to put my finger on, but it did build my confidence a ton.